in a revolving door.
Hello everyone, I'm Gata the Catgirl here with a new video for you. You may be wondering why a catgirl doesn't really have a girly voice, but that's because of puberty. Don't you hate millennials? They're lazy, stupid, delicate snowflakes, antisocial, and self-indulgent brats. If you are a millennial, like myself, you've probably heard these type of things, and there are really only two ways to remedy the issue. Either we can educate the population about how society, economy, and culture has changed, and perception of these attributes are misleading, or we as millennials can just stop being lazy, stupid, delicate snowflake, antisocial, and self-indulged brats. One of these two need to happen. Millennial is really an abused term. It's misused to the point where it's often mistaken for just another word to mean annoying young adults or teens. Millennial is a working title for those born around 1980 to 2000, which has unique defining traits. Some people like to argue the exact years, but it's not really that important, as it's really just to talk about the entire generation. Unfortunately, many of the claims made about millennial characteristics are simplified, misinterpreted, or just statistically incorrect. Let's go over how millennials are ruining everything for everyone, because we are naturally terrible people if we were born within a set of years. Number 1. Millennials are lazy. Millennials are just naturally lazy. We can see evidence of this in statistics and economy. According to The Economist, link in the description, 59% of millennials are competitive and say that competition is what gets them up in the morning because they compare their performances with their peers, versus the 50% from baby boomer generation and 48% from other generations. You can tie that into employment. People argue that millennials won't get jobs, and those who do complain about how little they make. Due to the cumulative rate of inflation to the American dollar today versus 1980, the start of the millennial, the dollar has lost 2/3 of its value since then. This means $7.25, the federal minimum wage today, is equal to $2.40 back in 1980. This is pretty interesting because the US federal minimum back in 1980 was $3.10. which by today's standards is equal to $9.37. It doesn't really sound like a lot or a big deal, but after a 40-hour work week, it's a $340 difference per month by today's standards for the exact same amount of work, which money could be used for an abundance of groceries or rent. It also doesn't help that the baby boomers aren't retiring at the age previous generations have, so they're staying in the workforce longer. In other words, they're not creating space for millennials to enter into the workforce, ergo making jobs harder to get for millennials with even less money to be earned. My parents bought a 5-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood with a finished basement for the same cost I paid for my 2-bedroom fixer-upper home in the armpit of the city with an unsanitary crawl space downstairs, and the upstairs had no walls. The outside had no siding, and it was considered a really good deal. This was only a 10-year difference in real estate. If anything, millennials are forced to be far less lazy in order to get even less results than the previous generations. Fortunately for me, it's pretty easy for a catgirl to get money. In any case, millennials are obviously lazier than the previous generations. Number 2, millennials are stupid. Millennials need to stop being so stupid and undereducated. We can see evidence of this from the education system itself. With the coming of technology, our education system needs to be more complicated, so the next generation can understand how technology works today. By common sense, every generation is more educated than the previous one. 2014's White House Council of Economic Advisors report on the millennial generation states, "While there are substantial challenges to meet, no generation has been better equipped to overcome them than millennials. They are skilled with technology, determined, diverse, and more educated than any previous generation." They're the most credentialated generation to pass through young adulthood. Well over a third of all millennials have college degrees. I've heard people say things like,
"Why are there all these dumb warning labels on products today? Children weren't dumb enough to do these things when I was little."
actually, kids were dumb enough to do those things when you were little. The reason they are on warning labels today is because someone did it in the past, not today. Today's teens certainly don't have a monopoly on stupidity. Kids have been doing equally dumb things throughout history. But there weren't always news stories shared on the social media just moments after. Teens have 24-hour access to devices that not only enable them to make videos, but also share with the whole world within seconds. Just imagine what every generation could have done with that platform of self-absorption. But of course, only millennials are the stupid ones, and they need to stop being so stupid. Number 3. Millennials are delicate snowflakes. First off, I don't even know where this recent use of the term snowflake came from. It's being used to mean easily offended, or referring to social justice warriors, or political correctness. Actual snowflakes are pretty strong given their size. Before people were using it to pointlessly insult each other's political groups in the past couple of years, it was meant to mean unique. You know, as in no two snowflakes are alike. Say someone was a special snowflake meant they had a superiority complex and felt like they stood out and was better than their peers. I used to call it special snowflake syndrome. Excuse me. I used to call it special snowflake syndrome when someone made a scene about how they didn't deserve the regular treatment everyone else was receiving. This term was popularized by Fight Club, the movie, and was initially used there to mean special.
You are not special. You are not a beautiful or unique snowflake. You are the same decaying organic matter as everything else.
But anyway, millennials are annoying little pansies who can't take a joke. As we all know, social justice warriors, or people being politically correct, are so annoying with their constant attempts at helping abused minorities get social equality and fighting discrimination. Is that actually a bad thing? Of course, everything can be taken to extremes.
All white people are racist. So I put this up because I really want any white person in the room to know up front that this is what we're dealing with, that it's not going to be this coddling of white tears and what that looks like. We're not going to discuss, oh, maybe some of us have worked it out. No, you're always going to be racist, actually. So even when you're on your path to trying to figure out how to be a better human being, because I believe that white people are born into not being human, like that actually, instead of people of color and black folks being dehumanized, that actually everyone is dehumanized on threat within white supremacy.
But reasonable political correctness is as simple as not being a jerk to each other and correcting damaging or false statements. If millennials saying something you said was a little offensive is the height of your problems, you clearly live in a paradise. I often wonder what the opposite of a racist is like. You know, if someone is like,
"Oh darn, our racist uncle is coming to dinner again. He's so annoying with his anti-Semitic jokes."
but instead it's a racist family who has an open-minded uncle. Would they instead be like,
"Oh darn, our open-minded and accepting uncle is coming to dinner. He's so annoying with his equal rights jokes."
In any case, millennials are clearly terrible people because they want equal rights and may annoy some people who are socially insensitive. Number 4. Millennials are antisocial. It's pretty obvious. Most millennials are pretty antisocial. People see that if someone is immersed in the digital world, they clearly have no social skills. Because people who don't talk to each other on the bus apparently have no social skills. And this is exclusively a problem with this one generation.
It's been like this forever.
If only these digital worlds had some form of media for socializing, like we could call it a social media. Hey, this is actually pretty brilliant. Call me agent. I need to patent this idea right now.
5 minutes later.
I have apparently just been informed that social media exists and I cannot patent it. Anyway, millennials should stop socializing in the way technology makes it convenient with the times, and instead should do it more complicated ways because it makes some older people complain about it, I guess. Technology is bad. Fire is scary. And Thomas Edison was a witch. Number 5. Millennials are self-indulgent. Well, first off, the me generation is defined as the baby boomers generation and the self-involved qualities that some people associate with it. The 1970s were dubbed the me decade, and the phrase caught on with the general public at the time when self-realization and self-fulfillment were becoming cultural aspirations to which young people supposedly ascribed higher importance than social responsibility. The civil rights movement gave rebellious young people serious goals to work towards. Cultural experimentation was justified as being directed towards spiritual or intellectual enlightenment. This spawned the unapologetic disco attitude and continued further countercultures like hippies. Self-indulgence is not a new concept to generations. The argument towards millennials specifically comes from studies that seem to ignore the 70s. A study from Journal of Personality and Social Psychology states,
compared to boomers, millennials were less likely to have donated to charities, less likely to want a job worthwhile to society, or that would help others, and less likely to agree they would eat differently if it meant more food for the starving.
These reasons are not because they are selfish. It's because Generation X, the people born around 1960 to 1980, the previous generation, actually had money and could afford it. I know millennials who have told me that they don't eat some days because they can't afford to take money out of their rent for groceries. But people are still trying to dub this the Generation Me because of this. But yes, millennials are so self-indulged because the previous generations ruined the economy, so they struggle to survive on their own and can't afford to be abstemious. Thank you, previous generations, for handing millennials your mess than blaming them for not being instantly rich. They should be far more grateful for your judgments. In conclusion, millennials are the worst type of people because of reasons that don't really make sense. That's pretty much it. A list of misinformation and traditionalist complaints. Of course, there are going to be terrible people in every generation, but to blame a specific one as a whole for all the world's problems is kind of hypocritical, since every new generation is terrible. In fact, it's pretty safe to say that all people suck equally.
Why do we have to go back to school? We already wasted the whole day there.
How can someone be so grumpy going to a charity ball? Especially when it's about building a better future for children.
Yeah, one chocolate fountain at a time.
How are we supposed to raise awareness for the children of tomorrow if we have low blood sugar today?
Maybe your generation should have thought about our future before ruining the economy.
And the environment. And the education system.
And ruining ChatSnap by following their kids. Not related, but I think it should be said.
You think we had it easy? When I finished high school, all I had was $3 in my pocket. So what did I do? I bought a house, a car, and started a family. And the other $2 went into my savings.
You guys just don't realize, do you?
I realize that in spite of how self-entitled my kids are, I still have space in my heart to think about their future.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Feel free to comment whether you agree or disagree, or even if you're indifferent, just comment something. Talk about your day. Tell me about your cat. I really want to know about your cat. What color is it? Is it fluffy? Is it short hair? Is it cuddly? Tell me something about your cat.
It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay? No more! Where the are your parents? Who are your parents? I'm gonna call Child Protective Services. It's time to stop!